Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Fandom Zone podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Charles Skaggs, back in the Fandom Zone, celebrating the 6th anniversary of the Fandom Zone podcast with my wonderful co-host, wonderful friend, and someone suffering through my Gollum impression, DJ Nick. How you doing, Nick?
The man of 1,000 voices. I mean, Charles, really, you missed your calling in life. You could have been a voice actor. You're very, very talented. And wow, 6 years. Happy birthday to all of us, and thank you so much. I'm so happy to be a part of this journey, and thank you so much. Also, may I say to all our listeners and supporters for sticking around with us for 6 years. This is fantastic.
Obviously, we've talked a lot of comic book TV on this show. We've been around since 2015. We've gone through several co-hosts. Yours truly, they can't apparently get rid of. But we started off with, Karen Lindsay, when Karen and I created this podcast after our previous podcast, Dangerous Habits, the Constantine podcast, sadly went away because NBC, in their short-sightedness, canceled the show after only one season. Shame.
I'm still missing that show.
I miss that show terribly. That's one of my pet peeves against NBC, my little grudges. But Karen and I, we soldiered on. We said, well, let's broaden the concept. So we created this podcast, the Fandom Zone, and not just one comic book TV show. We did all of them. And if you're listening to us for a good while there, you know that we were doing all of them. Like sometimes it'd be weeks where we talked 8 different comic book shows at once. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we had to split them up into 2 separate episodes because there was just so much to talk about. So a lot of these discussions ended up becoming like 3 hours. And so we kind of, chopped them up into like little segments and depending on what we were discussing, and then played around with the format. And sadly, Karen had to step away because of her MS, her multiple sclerosis, which is a horrible disease. And Karen is obviously still in my thoughts to this day. So
same here.
So Karen, if you're listening, we miss you. But Jesse Jackson was kind enough to come aboard after Karen stepped away, and we kind of kept the thing going. And obviously then we brought DJ Nick in to talk some more, and now Jesse has decided to step away because I guess he doesn't want to talk the Falcon and the Winter Soldier with us. But that's okay. We're cool. We got this covered. We're good. And I'm definitely looking forward to talking about this return to the Marvel Cinematic Universe with you, Nick.
Same here. And so, Charles, at this point, are we putting Jesse's jersey in storage, or are we giving it away to Goodwill?
Well, we might donate it to the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum.
Yes.
Hopefully someone else might not end up with it and take on the identity of the new Jesse Jackson. So we'll see what happens, right?
Yeah, because that jersey is probably worth a lot. So, you have to put it under ice and also under glass with all the various lasers and stuff, and laser alarms. So, yeah, I guess we'll leave his jersey there for now, and he's ready to pick it up again. Yeah,
because obviously if you watch this show, hey, someone could come around and replace you just like that. So that's what happens when you step away. But we'll obviously look out for Jesse, and obviously he's welcome back anytime. I'm just kidding. But yeah, we miss Jesse and appreciate you guys putting up with just my nonsense and also
mine too,
or Nick's as well. And we hope you enjoy our discussions, even if Jesse isn't here to be a part of it.
And heck, we get Fandom Zone fan theories for what happens to Jesse, which is fantastic.
Exactly. Yeah. What happened to Jesse? Jesse, hopefully you're listening to us, so that you can write in now. If you're not going to record with us, you could always write in and still be a part of the show. Just saying. So, yes, I'm going to put a little pressure on him for not being here. So here, like I said, episode 210, Nick and I are going to be talking New World Order, which is actually a very fitting title considering, well, now Nick and I are just kind of carrying on with the Fandom Zone. So this is our New World Order. And this is the first episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the second Marvel Cinematic Universe series to premiere on Disney+. Written by Malcolm Spellman, who is the showrunner for this. He's also the former writer and showrunner on Empire, I believe.
Yeah.
The Fox series. Directed by Kari Skogland, who's directed episodes of The Punisher, The Handmaid's Tale, The Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead, and Boardwalk Empire, which is a pretty impressive resume. And I think Kari Skogland, kind of like Matt Shackman, when we talked The Vision of Scarlet Witch, or excuse me, WandaVision. I want to say Vision of Scarlet Witch. WandaVision.
That's the sequel.
That's the sequel, right? Yeah, there you go. Let's start that rumor. Sequel is called The Vision of Scarlet Witch, right? But no, Max Shackman, directed all the episodes for that show. So maybe it's kind of going to be the same thing where Kari Skogland directs all 6 episodes of The Falcon and Winter Soldier. Mm. Nick, before I get into the cast, what was your general reaction to this first episode? I'm dying to know your thoughts because you were one that said that you didn't want any spoilers. You were very careful to avoid them even when I would casually mention something, and you're very patient with me, so I appreciate that. Oh. But I'm curious now that you've watched the first episode, what you thought about it.
Well, I as expected, this is much more run-of-the-mill superhero TV show. But once again, as I had actually pointed out to you, Charles, when we talked a little bit back and forth on Messenger, is I love it seems like the common thread is the human condition, which is kind of what we got in WandaVision, obviously with the whole thing of the stages of grief. And here it seems to be also very much talking about either PTSD, for example, when it comes to Winter Soldier, and real life problems, which we'll of course address when it comes to Sam and his sister, and everything that goes with that. I really enjoyed this first episode. I thought it was there was a lot of bombastic action, which you'd expect from a superhero TV show. And it kind of makes me, I saw why this would have been the first show to debut instead of WandaVision, because it actually makes more sense. And maybe someday, once everything's kind of in place, I might go back and watch it in the different order. So starting with Falcon and Winter Soldier, going to WandaVision, and see if it's you get a different perspective. Because you can tell that with this show, it's definitely a setup for Black Widow. Very much so, because it's that kind of deal, if you know what I mean. Granted, they take place in different time frames, but it's that kind of style. So I really, really loved it. Anthony Mackie seems just to have gotten even better than he was before. Sebastian Stan, well, I love Seb Stan. He's just awesome. And just all around, it was a beautiful, beautiful show. I love especially the how it was shot. Kudos, definitely. I really enjoyed it. What about you?
Yeah, this is very much an action drama. So a lot of this, especially the first part of this episode, emphasis on the action. I totally agree with you. This is definitely more mainstream Marvel Cinematic Universe TV series than WandaVision, at least, initially. But I think also because, we're talking different mediums here, television versus film, that with the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, they always gear it toward a lot of action, some humor, and a little bit of characterization. But there's not an overly strong reliance on characterization in the films, at least in Marvel films. It seems more like television seems to be a great playground to really dig deep into their characters' personalities.
Character development definitely works more on that, yeah.
They've got more room to expand. I mean, because essentially what this is a 6-hour Marvel movie broken up into chapters.
Correct.
So therefore, there's a lot more room to explore these two characters and their various relationships. For me, I thought the Captain America trilogy was essentially the best superhero trilogy I can think of as far as films.
So if you put it in a vacuum outside of the rest of the Infinity Saga, you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. As its own animal. If I took, the 3 films, Captain America, the First Avenger, Captain America, the Winter Soldier, and then Captain America Civil War, treated those as a trilogy, I think it's the best superhero trilogy that's out there, because for one way or another, with the Superman films, you got the first 2, which are good, the third and the fourth, not good, Batman.
The Nolan trilogy.
The Nolan trilogy, starts off, the first two, Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, are great, but stumbles on The Dark Knight Rises in a big way.
Yeah.
You've got, the Batman movies where you had a kind of a Batman Returns, and then stumbled with Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, big way.
Yes.
So, Avengers, because of splitting that third movie into two, it's almost a quadrilogy. And even then, it kind of stumbles with the Avengers: Age of Ultron.
And the same thing I think you could say for the Thor trilogy as well, because Dark World has a lot of problems.
World, yeah, exactly.
And Iron Man as well, because a lot of people have problems with Iron Man 3.
Yeah, I certainly do. And even 2 was a little weaker than the first one. It seems like they got progressively worse with the Iron Man trilogy.
Yeah.
So for my money, Captain America has the best superhero trilogy. I'll make that argument. Or at least I just did, I guess.
I'm right there with you because, even looking, as you even pointed out, in the MCU, the Thor trilogy got kind of worse. Yeah, because I'm thinking we haven't had any other films that have had 3 films so far. No, because Captain Marvel still has to have a sequel. Black Panther still has to have a sequel. So, yeah, and Hulk, enough said about that.
Anyway. Right, exactly. So there's not a lot of room there, but no. So yeah, my money, Captain America is the winner as far as I'm concerned. So consequently, I'm a huge fan of this, especially the Winter Soldier. I thought the Winter Soldier, my personal favorite of the trilogy.
It's amazing
because it's very much like an espionage drama, that film.
That's right.
And consequently, I think this film is playing a lot into that in a lot of ways. I think we're going to see a bit of that. I really appreciate it. Probably, obviously, you're not getting Black Widow, you're not getting Cap, or at least the Steve Rogers Captain America. Mm-hmm. But it's okay because it gives now obviously this is where Sam and Bucky step into the spotlight. Not being the sidekicks, the partners. They're proven leads now in their own right, and now with this series, we really get to know them a lot better. Kind of like we got to know the Vision and the Scarlet Witch a lot better in WandaVision.
Yeah.
So that's my assessment. I thought it was a very strong first episode, right out of the gate, really grabs you. Pretty traditional, but there are some things, I think that we're getting, especially with some interesting, as you addressed, social commentary, that I think this has a chance to be something a little more than just a typical Marvel superhero TV show.
Very much so. And I think it's great that they decide to pair these two characters together because they both obviously had strong ties to Steve Rogers. So it makes total sense that they would eventually end up coming together. I mean, they haven't just yet, but I'm sure that common ground of that dedication and devotion to Steve will end up bringing them together in some form or shape.
Yeah, obviously the first episode doesn't bring them together, like you said. Hopefully the second episode will. And I'm thinking that and we'll talk about this obviously in our fourth topic, this new Captain America that's introduced, I think is going to be the catalyst that brings both of them together. Because they probably are going to find a need to okay, we need to talk about this.
Yeah, because if he's anything like the character in the comics, it's going to be bad.
Yes,
that's what I'm going to say.
At least at first. We'll
talk
about this a little bit. But yeah, I find this really. I think that the potential for this series is going to be really interesting to talk about. All right, guest cast. So we have. Well, let's talk about our leads. Obviously, Anthony Mackie, returning as the Falcon / Sam Wilson. Sebastian Stan, or as Nick likes to call him, Seb Stan.
Yes.
So do you stan Seb Stan? I'm just kind of curious. To use that hip lingo the kids are using these days when you stan something.
Yeah, I'm calling him Seb Stan as if I'm going out for beers with him every other Friday.
Yeah, we're bros. My buddy Seb Stan, he told me this. Yes. It's all good. So yes, Sebastian Stan as the Winter Soldier, James Buchanan, Bucky Barnes. That's where the Bucky comes from, his middle name, Buchanan. Danny Ramirez is introduced as First Lieutenant Joaquin Torres, and he is a character to watch if you know anything about recent Marvel comics, which is something I will talk about in trivia. if you're interested. He's going to be in the Top Gun sequel, Top Gun Maverick. And he was also in episodes of The Gifted and Orange is the New Black. So I guess he's already had kind of a superhero exposure with The Gifted. If you remember that late lamented Fox X-Men sort of series.
Another show that I feel terribly bereft about.
Right. Wyatt Russell is introduced at the end as Captain America, but he's actually a character named John Walker.
Yes.
And notably, he's the son of Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn.
Are you serious?
I swear to God, yes, this is... So essentially, in a weird way, he's sort of Star-Lord. Because remember, Kurt Russell played Ego in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. So Wyatt Russell is his son. So this is the first, I think, father-son Marvel Cinematic Universe connection that we have.
That's actually
in real life,
neat.
Right? But he's also been in the movies 22 Jump Street, Cowboys and Aliens, and also Escape from L.A., which was the sequel to Escape from New York that featured his father, Kurt Russell. So hooray, nepotism.
Welcome to Hollywood.
Exactly, right? Erin Kellyman, we get to see her briefly as a character named Carly Morgenthau, and that's going to be pretty important, and for reasons I will get to in trivia. She's notable because she played the character Enfys Nest in Solo, a Star Wars Story, which made sense because, well, that was also produced by Disney, released by Disney. So therefore, it makes perfect sense that Disney would already have their eye on her, and brought her in for this as well. Actress named Adepero Adoye plays Sarah Wilson, Sam's sister, who I thought was a very interesting character in this episode. Mm-hmm. She was in the film 12 Years a Slave, so I thought that was notable. We get the return, and I'm sure I was very happy about this. Don Cheadle as James Rhodey Rhodes, not as War Machine, as it turns out, but we get to see him as Rhodey. Amy Aquino plays Dr. Rayner, the therapist for Bucky, and she was in the United States version of Being Human. That was on, I believe, Sci-Fi, if I recall correctly. Mm-hmm. She was also in the movie Moonstruck, featuring Cher. If you remember that movie from back in the day, Nicolas Cage. Mm-hmm. And she was also in the episodes of the series Castle. So, Jesse Jackson, if you're listening, I'm sure you appreciated that. Miki Ishikawa plays Leah, and she was recently on AMC's The Terror, which I did not watch. But so if anybody knows, I don't know how good it was. But she was on that. And lastly, we had Ken Takamoto as Yori Nakajima, the old man that Bucky befriends, and for reasons that we find out later in the episode, rather tragically, why he befriends Yori. But, yep, as part of his attempt to make amends. So I thought that was very interesting. So trivia, I thought, first off the bat, we probably should talk John Walker.
Yes.
And he first appeared as a supervillain, Super Patriot, in Captain America Volume 1, number 323, from way back in 1986. And after Walker received an honorable discharge from the United States Army, a friend told him about the Power Broker, who was this mysterious individual who gave people superhuman abilities through various treatments. Yep. And soon after, the original Captain America, Steve Rogers, abandoned his costume and identity when the Commission on Superhuman Activities told him that Captain America had grown beyond the name's original role as a symbol for America during the war and shouldn't be tied down to a political agenda. So essentially, for political purposes, for political reasons, Cap abandoned this identity and temporarily took on the name the Captain, while Walker was recruited by the Commission to be Rogers' replacement and assumed the identity of Captain America in issue 333, only to later give it up and Steve taking the name back, the mantle back, while Walker takes on a different identity, but I'm going to leave that there for now because I don't want to spoil anything for just yet.
No, stands to reason.
So I think that's a good place to leave it for right now.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, if anybody else out there listening, you could look it up for yourselves. Not stopping you. Joaquin Torres first appeared in Captain America Sam Wilson, number 3, as a Mexican teenager who was abducted by the Sons of the Serpent. And Captain America, who is, hey, Sam Wilson at this point,
yes,
discovered that Joaquin was being used in experiments by a guy named Carl Malus, who turned Joaquin into a bird-human hybrid using Captain America's pet bird, Redwing.
yeah.
And when Malus was defeated, Captain America took Joaquin in, who later rescued Captain America from another group, the Serpent Society. And after the Serpent Society's defeat, Captain America allowed Joaquin to become his sidekick and take on the name as the New Falcon in issue number 6. So the question is, will Joaquin become the New Falcon in this show?
It could be, yes, because if we need a new Captain America, so
yeah,
yes,
right.
It could.
Especially if, a certain Sam Wilson takes on the mantle. That kind of leaves a vacancy in the Falcon department, right?
Yeah, we could be walking out of this show with a new Captain America and a new Falcon. That would be quite a turn for the books. I think fans would be interested by that, I think.
Exactly, because, Joaquin's pretty recently introduced, so I don't think a lot of people know about him. I think it's just something to kind of keep your eye on as we watch these episodes. And then lastly, Carly Morgenthau, who is, like I said, Aaron Kellyman's character, the leader of the Flag Smashers, that terrorist group that Joaquin infiltrates in this episode, is based, of course, on the supervillain Flag Smasher, who first appeared in Captain America Volume 1, number 312, as Carl Morgenthau. So essentially this is a little gender bending in this role. And in the comics, Carl was the son of a wealthy Swiss banker turned diplomat, and Carl wanted to follow in his father's footsteps to become a diplomat until his father was trampled to death in a riot at a Latvian embassy. He came to believe that humanity needed to do away with the concepts of countries and nationalism that made people feel superior to those of different nationalities. The Flag Smasher used terrorism to spread anti-nationalist sentiment and conducted a one-man terrorist campaign in New York City against nationalist symbols, holding hostages until Captain America captured him. Establishing a society he called Ultimatum, which was an acronym short for, you're going to love this, the Underground Liberated Totally Integrated Mobile Army to Unite Mankind. Wow.
Only Marvel.
Boy, you really reached for that one, Marvel. So the Flag Smasher created this nationalistic terrorist organization and made himself, of course, Supreme Commander. So that's a little background on these that I thought people might find helpful going into later episodes.
You definitely did great, Charles. And I think it is maybe a nice nod to the Swiss origins of the Flag Smasher character, since the big riot, if you will, happens in Zurich, Switzerland in this episode. So I think that was also a nice nod, if you will, to the Swiss origins of the OG Flag Smasher. So I appreciated that.
Yeah.
Though I have to say...
Any other trivia? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, the only thing I had to say was... it's interesting that all the other places that we get in this show, they tell you the name of the city, whereas here it just says Switzerland.
Tunisia.
And I actually had to go and look, because I actually looked for some landmarks that were being shown to know what city it was. And the ATM that is shown, the bank, actually was able to give me the clue, because I went and then Googled that type of bank, and that bank is, shall we say, unique to Zurich. So we can safely say that what went down actually, where we see that scene actually happened in Zurich, Switzerland.
Interesting. Well, I appreciate that you did your homework on that. That's
I know it
that's why we love
matter.
having you here in the Fandom Zone podcast.
I know it doesn't matter, but to me, I was like, come on, you gave us Delacroix, Louisiana, and you gave us this place. Switzerland is not like a tiny little city. It's a
No.
country, for crying out loud.
Right, a pretty notable country, exactly.
Yeah,
So thanks for that. That's good to know.
no problem.
All right, so Zurich, Switzerland. That makes perfect sense. All right. So we have 4 topics today. First topic, I thought we could talk the Falcon, and I'm going to distinguish this. The Falcon, Joaquin, and Batroc Zeliper. Because he's French, get it? So,
Yep.
yeah, so our favorite French kickboxer / master of savate, Batroc, makes his return, and played, of course, by Georges St-Pierre, who we previously saw in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. So it's kind of nice that they brought the original actor back to reprise the role here, and because let's face it, who better to play a kickboxer than a kickboxer in real life, right?
Yes.
And so we get a little rematch between the Falcon and Batroc. I thought that was kind of cool. So Nick, I want to get your thoughts. So what did you make of we open up with this great action sequence as the Falcon is essentially on a military plane. He's supposed to save this captain who's been captured by this criminal organization named the LAF. They end up through these various circumstances. There's this great aerial battle, and the captain ends up being taken on this helicopter or whatever. And there's all kinds of missiles, and you've got various guys in wingsuits, almost like the old '60s Jim Steranko Shield comics. So I thought that was kind of cool. And just this great battle, you go through these various canyons and whatnot, and in Tunisia. And I thought it was very impressive. So I want to get your thoughts on that.
Well, first off, I have to say, what a way to open the show. It was just so much bombastic action immediately. And I mean, I thought it was a great way to obviously showcase, I think, how far also Falcon has gotten with the suit and his, and earning his stripes when it comes to being such a great, so great in the air, but also, and more than an accomplished hand-to-hand combatant as well. Because
Right.
you kind of see him, kind of slip into the plane and kind of start duking it out with folks. So it was very impressive. And I thought, as I pointed out cinematography earlier, I thought this was really, really impressive, really well shot. Granted, it's sad that Red Wing is, should we say, a robot or
A drone, yeah.
Rather than in the comics, which is he's an actual bird. But, I get it for practicality.
It's less cheesy, I think.
Yes. I suppose it was for practicality. You couldn't have had, a real life bird kind of running around. What are they going to do? Strap missiles to it and say, fire away? But so I suppose it just wouldn't have worked. But so it was a nice, because I always loved Red Wing and Falcon in the comics. But yeah, it was super, super fun. I love the aerial stuff. And I have to feel bad for the lieutenant who kind of gets passed around like a parcel throughout.
Yeah.
It goes to one plane, then to another, and one guy grabs him. And so you have to think.
It's almost keep away from the Falcon.
And he's not wearing any kind of gear or anything. So the guy must be freezing to death when he's out there. Because everybody else obviously is wearing these suits, which also insulate them and keep them warm. Because up there, folks, it does get cold.
Yes, it does.
So obviously the air being more rarefied and what have you is colder. So I was like, that guy must be freezing to death. Give him a hot cocoa or something, or even a shot of whiskey when he gets down, because he's going to need to warm up. But other than that, obviously being a big fan, as folks know by this point, of the Montreal Canadiens, one of the big staples in Quebec is Georges St-Pierre. He's considered you have the Montreal Canadiens, and Georges St-Pierre is kind of like the hero of Quebec. Granted, he's from Saint Isidore and not from Montreal, but Quebec loves this guy. And so it was great to see him back. And he actually has some good comedic timing as well. I love when he goes to the pilot and says, "I'm going to kill you," but he obviously in a joking way. And sadly, the pilot does get killed by bullets ricocheting off Falcon's shield. And I don't know about you, Charles, but I love the Falcon's shield. That was so cool when he pulls it up and just to shield himself from the bullets. It was brilliant
those
stuff.
wings. I like the fact that his wings are multi-purpose.
Yeah.
He uses them to fly, or otherwise he can wrap them around and use them as a protective shield, and maybe a little bit of foreshadowing in that regard.
I think so too. You make a very good point. And then it was curious that obviously when they get to the Libyan border, we know that unfortunately in the real world there are there's major political tension with Libya, and I'm glad they kind of steered away from that a little bit because they're like, are we welcome there? No, we're kind of not welcome there. So
essentially it created this deadline because they had to stop them and rescue the captain before they crossed the border. Yeah, the border, because otherwise they wouldn't be, it'd create this big international incident.
That's right, because they couldn't traverse Libyan airspace.
Yep.
So, but no, it was just brilliant. I enjoyed every single moment, and as I said, it was a nice little cameo of Batroc, who I thought was fun, and so all in all, it was good stuff. And what were your thoughts on this? Should we say opener?
Yeah, I like Sam is obviously very confident now as the Falcon. He's been around the block. He's very comfortable in the suit. Seems to really know how to use the suit to its fullest potential.
That's right.
And I thought there was a very interesting homage where Sam, he falls backward out of the carrier hangar part. The jet or the plane.
So he's basically hopping out
the landing bay, I guess you'd call it, maybe the cargo bay, where just falls backwards out, and then as he's falling, he's essentially free falling, then activates his wings and soars off.
Before being told to keep it subtle, and know it's not going to be subtle.
It was almost like a very Tony Stark like thing, where we saw in. Was it the first Avengers movie where
he says, I have one plan
attack. Yeah, so very reminiscent. So you almost get a vibe that Sam is very cocky.
Yes.
And that's who he is. That's his personality. Although not obnoxiously cocky like Tony Stark can be, I think. He's just very self-confident and self-assured.
True.
So, But yeah, it was just very masterful. It was essentially this great dogfight in the sky, and I really appreciated it. I thought it was a fun way to start. Definitely, obviously, it probably appealed to a lot of Marvel Cinematic Universe fans seeing that action sequence, and we get introduced to Joaquin, who is essentially sort of the Falcon's handler, at least is the representative. Because Joaquin is I believe he's a first lieutenant in the Air Force, the United States Air Force. So he's essentially his boots on the ground guy. While Falcon's patrolling the skies, Joaquin's providing him intel, driving it around in a Jeep or something, and feeds him information that he needs to complete his mission. So I thought it was very good, and obviously, I think that was important because we get to see Sam working with Joaquin. So that kind of establishes that these two have a relationship. So that maybe later on, if, to already start our theories for Falcon and Winter Soldier, if Sam does become Captain America and Joaquin becomes the Falcon, that's why he takes Joaquin as his new partner.
True. And also, I think there's this to be said. Joaquin is also Sam's biggest fan.
Yeah.
He really is. He's a major Falcon fanboy. Let's be honest, because he's like, cheering him on and kind of whooping when he comes back. I love the enthusiasm, but he does seem to be fanboying a little bit over Falcon.
A little unprofessional, cool. But
yeah, I thought it was fun for what it was. That was fun.
Did you like his introduction?
I did. I mean, he seems like, as I said, a really great guy because as I said, I appreciated the enthusiasm, and he seems, as I said, like a happy-go-lucky kind of guy, and I think he's just so happy to be working with Falcon. Yeah. Not to mention the whole thing is he kind of prods him for things about, is it true the Cap's on the moon and all this kind of thing. That little moment at the bar I thought was superb, and it was also possibly a nod to the fact that there is somebody on the moon, but it's just not necessarily Captain America.
No, it's somebody else entirely.
Yeah, well, there's somebody else in space at least.
Yeah, exactly. But it also, it was kind of interesting. I think Joaquin being a bit of the kind of someone who acknowledges that there are conspiracies regarding the original Captain America.
Yeah.
So
I wonder whether it was a nod to the fans with their own theories, saying
maybe.
What happened to old Captain America? He was taken by the Skrulls and put on a base on the moon.
Yeah, we don't know, because the last time we saw him at the end of Avengers Endgame, he's just, he's old, Steve is, and gives Sam the shield and says, okay, well, it's yours now. And that's it. He just kind of, we kind of cut away. We don't know what happened to him.
Yeah, that's right.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I think it might be a bit of a nod.
We don't know. We don't know. Do you think Captain America's dead at this point? Steve?
Look, I don't. I mean, granted, you can't rule anything out, and for all we know, he might make a brief appearance as the elderly Steve Rogers, which does happen in the comics. There is a point where Steve has aged, and he's part of the whole thing. Granted, it's very different story-wise, and we get this older Captain America. But they might. I mean, I wouldn't rule it out completely because, there hasn't been a funeral, there hasn't been anything else. So, from my knowledge of the Marvel comics, it could happen.
Well, just because he's dead doesn't mean he's going to stay dead. So
this is also true.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. But, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, obviously, we got a little burned by this in WandaVision, expecting a Benedict Cumberbatch cameo. Yeah. So I'm a little hesitant, a little gun-shy about hoping that we'll get a cameo of Chris Evans as the elderly Steve Rogers. But you never know. It's possible.
Maybe it's best to be gun-shy and then just super geek out when it happens.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's probably a good idea now to kind of have very low expectations and then be pleasantly surprised, like you said, if it actually
Play more
happens.
Conservatively, if you will.
Yeah, we probably should. So we'll be very guarded about that. All right. Anything else about this topic?
No, all in all, I just thought it was just a great dynamic, and I do think they're going to work a lot on the relationship between Sam and Joaquin. Granted, now Sam's in a different place, but I think it's going to be one of the big relationships, just like one we will be addressing soon, which is, of course, the one between Bucky and Yuri. So I think those are going to be like the two big relationships among the many that we will get in these 6 episodes.
Yeah, I think there's various interactions between these characters, and there are obviously some more are going to be more important than others. So we'll see how this plays out. All right, topic number 2, and I'm going to call this topic Sam, and this is where I make the distinction between the Falcon and Sam. So we're going to get to know Sam Wilson, the man, Rhodey, who makes his return, like I said, and Sarah, his sister, who we're introduced to in this episode. So any thoughts on Sam, especially, giving his speech at the Smithsonian when he essentially donates Cap's shield to become a museum piece, and has a little discussion with Rhodey, who kind of talks to him about like, well, hey, the world's kind of nuts now. We need somebody to help us with that.
Yeah.
So putting some seeds, I think, in the back of Sam's brain, perhaps. What did you make of that in the introduction of Sam's sister, Sarah, and their relationship with each other as they having some very serious financial difficulties and try to do something about that, but it doesn't quite work.
Yeah, I look, the little speech that Sam gives, I thought was very heartfelt, and I kind of got a little bit of goosebumps in that moment because a little mini movie started playing in my mind of what had happened, during Endgame and everything else, where we'd lost the likes of Tony Stark and Steve Rogers, ostensibly. And, I think it almost kind of threw some people off the scent of he's not going to be, immediately taking up the mantle of Captain America. Because as he even pointed out, the last words that he kind of said to Steve were, this shield feels like it's somebody else's. Because I believe Steve says something to him along the lines of, how does it feel? Yeah. And he answers like it was somebody else's. And so I think that haunts him because maybe he feels he can never live up to the standard that Steve had set, because obviously you're filling huge boots because Steve Captain America is Captain America, like the charismatic leader of the Avengers. So
the icon. You're trying to live up to that very, very high bar that Steve set.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, of course, Steve naturally believes 100% that Sam is up for the job or has what it takes to be up for the job. But I love that whole speech, and that you feel like he's doing it kind of reluctantly, in the sense that he'd love to do it, but he just feels that he's not there yet.
He's not worthy of the shield.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, I think, that Steve believes in Sam more than Sam is believing in Sam at this point.
True. Yes, because evidently he just maybe doesn't have that level of self-esteem where he's just like, as I said, he just values Steve so much. He's like, Steve was the best of us. And I believe he actually almost points that out, that Steve was the best of everybody with his moral standards and what have you. And hey, no surprise, Cap's gone, everybody starts cussing. Have you noticed?
Language.
They were playing quite fast and loose with the language. I noticed this.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, it did not faze me, but I thought to myself, so the kiddies are watching this, and they're going to be happily yelling this out in like, if Falcon says it, it's cool to say.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I thought it was kind of fun that maybe it was a little bit of a dig of Cap's not there to tell you language, so people like cussing. But other than that, I really like the little talk between him and Rhodey, and I think Rhodey also believes very much in Sam. And, of course, Rhodey's also bereft of his best friend, Tony Stark.
Right.
So I think he's also referring to that as well because, just for the fans, Iron Man and Captain America were the two big leaders or focuses. So somebody needs to fill that void.
So you think they're kind of going both through the same thing, really?
I believe so because, I mean, we know how close, obviously, Rhodey and Tony were, of course, because they're like best friends.
Yeah.
So I think he's almost putting that out as well. It's like, I miss Tony as kind of without saying, I miss Tony as well. And there's somebody needs to fill the void, because at this point, the Avengers are literally disassembled, to use a comic book phrase, if you will, because there's no Avengers at this point. So I think he also needs somebody to have that rallying cry to bring everybody back together again. So yeah, I really loved it. And Sam's sister, it was a great addition because it really humanizes the side of the Sam Wilson character.
Yeah.
And Charles, why is everybody having financial difficulties in the superhero realm? Superman and Lois, these guys, it's like nobody can get a break.
Nobody can get a loan, apparently. There's all these loan problems. We talked about this in Superman and Lois. Yeah, that hinky things were going on at the Smallville Bank. And poor Sam and Sarah, they try to go to get a loan because Sarah's having trouble keeping their business afloat. And
literally.
And so Sarah wants to sell this ship that belonged to their father. And Sam's like, no, we're not selling the ship. And Sarah's like, but we need the money, idiot. So Sam's like, I'm going to find another way. And he's all determined, like, well, we're going to get a loan. And so they go to get a loan, and lo and behold, they get turned down for that loan.
Even though the chap who's at the desk kind of is fanboying over the fact that he's Falcon.
Speaking of being unprofessional, this guy,
he's
like, can I get a selfie? You want to autograph this for me? And it's like, dude, settle. How about you give us a loan, and then we'll talk, right?
And what I was wondering is, his sister makes the point of, it's folks like us that almost end up not getting a loan. Is she making a racist implication there?
Well, the reason I think that was addressed, and I think it's a valid one, is that here in the United States, black people traditionally have a harder time getting bank loans, financial loans.
Mm.
That system is essentially, it's rigged against them. It's a very unsettling but harsh reality, and I'm kind of glad the show actually addressed it, because
without being over the top. It was a very subtle phrase. But
they weren't like screaming at the top of lungs on a soapbox. They were just like, they were turned down, and that this is something that a lot of, I think, black families experience. here in the United States, which is very sad and very unfair and horrible. So maybe this will shed at least a little bit of spotlight on that. But I mean, the fact that you've got this mainstream superhero show, mentioning it, it's like this. Yes, this is a real problem.
And I think Black Panther opened the doors for that.
Right.
So now
it's social. It's a social commentary, right?
Yeah, because that film was carrying the flag for it. So I think now they could even play on that even more so. But here's what I was wondering, Charles: is the ship? Are they actually using it to go out and fish for crawfish and what have you, or is it just because it's like a family heirloom, if you will? That was I was trying to understand what Sam's sister does for a living, because when my dad, she cooks stuff and delivers food or delivers homemade food.
Right.
That's what I was gathering. But is the ship considered like a family thing? It's been in the family for years. Is that what it's all about?
I think it's a memento of their father. It's something he cared a lot about.
Okay.
And if you notice, this ship wasn't running. Sam, struggles. Actually, he has to struggle, even though he's very technologically gifted because he's able to, help repair his suit. But getting this ship running again is kind of beyond him. It's another problem on top of everything. He struggles with it. It doesn't come easy to him, and so I think it's kind of symbolic in a way. I think it's more of a family heirloom.
Yeah.
That Sam wants to hold on to because how much he cared about his father, loved his father, and knew that this was important. So he's not ready to let that go. He knows that he believes his father would want his kids to hold on to this.
Because I'm assuming, obviously, Louisiana, or that part of Louisiana, probably is a big fishing community.
Right. Yeah.
And obviously, we know that crayfish or crawfish, depending on how you want to pronounce it,
crawfish,
is obviously in abundance. And so I'm assuming you have a lot of people going out fishing for crawfish.
Yeah.
So I assume that maybe at the time, their father was a fisherman, for all we know. And would probably, because I believe Sam actually points out to his sister, if you want to then go out and fish, at least you still have the boat. If you will, because that was the whole thing. I was just trying to figure out what his sister did for a living, but it seems like she does like Meals on Wheels, if you will, kind of thing.
Well, maybe their family business started out as a fishing trawler.
That's what I'm thinking. Being in Louisiana,
and then maybe over the years it changed, especially maybe when Sarah took over.
Yeah.
And if the boat's not running, she can't use that, so she probably would have to turn to something else to get them some form of income.
True. And I have to admit, while she was cooking, I so miss Southern cooking.
Yeah.
It makes me think of the days when I was in Texas and in Tennessee, because Cajun cooking, especially Cajun, being in Louisiana, is the bomb. I absolutely love Cajun cooking, which I sampled in Texas. And I was like, oh, man, I want Cajun cooking now, and I can't go to the States. But other than that, it was great fun. What did you make of all of this stuff?
Well, a lot of what you liked about it, I liked. One thing I thought was interesting when Sam and Sarah were trying to get that bank loan, and one of the reasons the bank representative told Sam the reason they weren't going to give him the loan was that because of Sam being blipped out of existence for 5 years. So essentially, he questions it. He runs down like, okay, so how do you get an income being an Avenger?
Yeah, and we know that from the comics, the Avengers don't pay anything.
No. Well, look, in the comics originally, it was like they were all living, Tony Stark was funding them.
Yeah, I mean, he was funding like that. He had to stay in the mansion and stuff. But I remember there was one moment where Spider-Man was invited to join the Avengers. And he's like, what does it pay? They're like, nothing. He's like, okay, catch you later.
Yeah. But then eventually I think they got a stipend from Tony Stark.
Yeah, eventually there was
a
stipend.
And then they ended up being taken over by the government. So I think they were getting funded by the government.
Mm-hmm.
So, but... yeah, as far as the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we don't know.
Yeah, because he was actually saying it doesn't really pay anything, if you will. That was at least what Sam was letting on. The income Sam is making is from government contracts that he has through the army, or should we say through the, Department of Security or what have you. But yeah, working for the government.
Right, and
That's
probably
where he's making
doing
his money.
missions like the Tunisia mission.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, I'd be surprised if he didn't get paid for that.
Yeah, he's probably an independent contractor.
Yeah, for the army. Yeah, or what have
I
you.
agree. But because of that, yeah, it's like, and probably some of that's off the books.
Mm-hmm.
So it can't be reported income. So therefore, the bank
he can't declare it.
He can't declare it for the bank to get the loan as an asset, I guess. So what do you do?
Finance is weird.
Right,
Once again,
exactly.
use Ultron.
Right. Yeah. So Poor Sam is kind of caught here, and we'll see how they figure it out. But
what did you make of seeing Don Cheadle again?
I really enjoyed seeing Rhodey. I thought he was a very good character to talk to Sam at that moment, because Sam speaking in front of everyone and talking about Steve, and I love the fact that he makes this comment about like, and Steve know how to pose stoically, and that, big laughs, at that. But he got to talk very heartfelt about Steve, and I thought that was very good. And Rhodey providing that counsel and kind of like maybe steering Sam. Probably recognizes that Sam is kind of lost without Steve. Needs a little bit of direction, and probably knows where Steve wants Sam to go. But maybe this was Rhodey's attempt to kind of steer Sam down that road. And I think that's going to be a very central theme for this series as a whole, is Sam realizing that he's worthy enough to become Captain America.
True. And here's the thing, Charles. Is it just me, or did it seem a little bit from time to time that Anthony Mackie, when he plays the kind of more sure of himself guy, was kind of channeling his inner Will Smith?
Yeah, a little bit.
I don't know why. I could almost imagine, like, if we didn't have Anthony Mackie, I could really see Will Smith doing this.
Yeah, but I think Anthony Mackie does it better, personally.
I do. I mean, I love them both equally, but yeah, that's why I said I love how much Anthony Mackie has grown into the character.
He's very charismatic, I think.
Yeah. Compared to where you were mentioning when we first see him in The Winter Soldier, in the second Captain America movie, he's grown so much since then. I really, really like the character development.
Well, going up against Thanos and getting blipped out of existence and coming back probably, it changes you. So, we'll see how much. But
it'll put hair on your chest, to say the least.
Pretty much. But yeah, I really like that scene, that whole sequence there with the two of them. They're the two of the Marvel Cinematic Universe's most prominent black heroes.
Yes.
That I really like that moment. I thought it was good.
Yeah. As we sadly no longer have Chadwick Boseman, who is no longer with us, but
yeah, and it gives Sam someone to relate to on a superhero level until at least he and Bucky are reunited.
Yes.
Which hopefully will be very, very soon. All right. Anything else about this topic?
Oh, no. I mean, I just really want to see where this all goes. And I love the fact that, as I said, I thought the whole thing of shared grief, if you will, between Rhodey and Sam was really nice, because I said they both lost their ostensibly best friends or dear friends, especially obviously Rhodey more than Sam. But I think it's safe to say Sam was just as close to Steve as Rhodey was close to Tony.
I think so. They were very much brothers, I think.
Yeah.
Steve thought very highly of Rhodey, of Sam, and that whole they had their little on your left little thing.
Yeah.
So,
that's why I think it's like the shared grief, and I think they'll definitely help each other out as they progress.
Yeah, I think so. All right, topic number 3. Let's talk about Bucky now. So let's talk about our Winter Soldier, we don't get to really see as the Winter Soldier, apart from like a nightmare sequence.
Yeah.
In this episode, talk about Dr. Rayner, his therapist, who, as we find out, this is part of the conditions of his pardon.
Mm-hmm.
That he has to attend these sessions, and obviously Bucky is thrilled to be a part of this. And let's also talk about Yori, the elderly Japanese man that or at least Japanese American, that he befriends in this episode, and Leah, who is like a sushi counter girl that Yori kind of pretty directly fixes him up with on a date. So there's a lot to unpack here. So you want to talk about Bucky first, or you want to talk about Bucky with Dr. Rayner, or what really stood out for you?
I mean, a little bit of everything kind of stood out for me because there, as you said, there's so much to unpack here. But you know what? I'm going to hand you the box cutter and let you start off on this one because
I see
you know.
Yeah,
I think because I think your thoughts are just as valid, if not more so than mine. So I think you should get first pick at this one. I think.
Okay, so I couldn't give my voice a break. Okay, that's cool. That's all right. I'm just teasing. Yeah, Bucky is very interesting here. So he's obviously still going through a lot because remember he's recovered his memories, and now because he's recovered these memories, he's suffering from all these nightmares and trauma. There's all this past trauma, and we find out that Bucky is keeping, to the surprise of no one, a ledger. His little notebook. And I'm sure, to use a Black Widow phrase, there's lots of red in that ledger.
Yeah, and there's some interesting names on that ledger.
Yes, there are. Which names stood out for you?
Well, I mean, I believe Helmut Zemo is on there.
Yes, he is.
And I believe Morgenthau is on there as well.
Yeah.
And of course, we get the big reveal of Yori's son, who is at the top there. And also, of course, we get the first moment with the psychiatrist or psychologist, what have you, that he's still taking care of business and trying to do it as cleanly as possible.
Right.
But he's like, I didn't hurt anybody. Yeah, he just killed the guy who was driving the car, but never mind.
Yeah, pretty much. But it's pretty interesting that Bucky, with his therapist, essentially they've developed these 3 rules that Bucky apparently needs to follow.
She is definitely bending and then so.
Yeah, essentially. So the first rule is nothing illegal. Second one is nobody gets hurt. And there's a great line where Bucky says, "Well, if that's the important one, why isn't that first?"
Yeah. And
then the third one is telling the people he's contacting that he's no longer the Winter Soldier, and he's trying to make amends. So in this flashback sequence, we kind of see that apparently he goes after, with the help of, I guess, some federal officers or whatever, he goes after one of the senators who, I guess, kind of was a Hydra plant.
Yeah, because he had acted as like kingmaker, and he had kind of helped set her up in this nice, cushy position through Hydra.
Right. So one of the ways of he's making amends is going after all the people that slipped through the cracks after Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Yes.
And so he kind of puts the squeeze on her. He kind of breaks rules 1 and 2, but he does follow through on rule 3. He's "Hi, I'm Bucky, and I'm no longer the Winter Soldier, and I'm trying to make amends." So
yeah, I killed your driver, but it's all good, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You're going away for a long time, I was sort of saying deliver a corsage to the family of the driver, but that's I did my job.
Yeah, but the therapist is telling him that he needs to open up, trust people, which obviously is going to be something very hard for Bucky, and obviously is going to put him in interesting conflict with Sam, as the two of them are going to be paired, in this kind of buddy cop role where you've got these two that constantly butt heads working together for a common purpose.
Yeah, because she points out that he has not returned any of Sam's calls because it is made evident that apparently Sam has reached out to him.
Yeah, she's like, "Give me your phone," and he starts scrolling through. Is like, "Okay, so I see that you've ignored 3 of Sam's calls."
Yes. And you've only sort of talked to me. She's like, "You lead a very sad life," or something along these lines.
And he's like, "You're a terrible therapist."
And you have to love the banter, and I love how much of, should we say, almost a cynical character Bucky is by this point, because he really is. He has that very sort of, humor, but it's very sort of jaded kind of soured humor.
Yeah, and it's interesting.
It reminds me a bit of him and Wolverine would get on very well.
Probably. They kind of do in the comics. But,
yes, exactly.
But I think it's interesting. They kind of gave him a therapist that's pretty much along those lines. So it's like the only therapist that could really deal with him is someone with as hardened of an outlook as he has.
Yeah, she's a military. She was in the military as well,
right?
And it would have been kind of fun to see, granted that would have been just for my viewing pleasure, previous therapists being kind of thrown out, one after the other, either maybe some in a corner crying,
right?
Or things of this extent.
Some thrown out through a window, perhaps.
Yeah, well, one of those things, somebody taking the ledger, handing it to somebody else, saying, "I quit. I can't do this anymore." It would have been kind of fun. I know it would have been too much, but
right.
That's my headcanon.
That Bucky would be burning through several therapists before finding this one.
Yes, similarly to, it made me think a little bit of the film Soul, where, I don't know if you've seen that film.
Not yet.
Oh, okay. No, because there's a similar thing where this lost soul was literally burnt through so many different counselors in the same kind of way, because I have them crying or so testy and pissed off with them. And I think that's kind of the same thing. I think she's one in a long line of therapists that have been assigned to Bucky by this point.
Probably. So we'll see how far she gets with him.
Yeah.
And as we saw from maybe you've seen the trailers, there's a part where apparently both Sam and Bucky are in the therapist room. So
that is going to be hilarious.
So that's something to look forward to, I think.
Because they did say apparently
almost like couples therapy.
That's exactly what I'm thinking is going to happen. And that was something that I believe I read an interview with one of the folks who worked on the show saying it's going to be very dialogue heavy and very kind of sarcasm heavy, especially when it comes to banter between what we will get eventually between Winter Soldier and Falcon. So, no, I love this character, but he has so much baggage. I mean, he's very much a tormented character. And I think you did mention, I believe, that, I don't know if it was it's the showrunner who worked on The Punisher as well.
The director.
The director. And I think he's maybe was, if you're referring to The Punisher from the Netflix series.
Yeah, I am.
Then you can definitely tell this is playing into the way that the Winter Soldier is being depicted as well, because he's very much a Frank Castle-style character who has that definitely has that baggage and is damaged. Because, as you mentioned, he's waking up in the middle of the night, still tormented by these nightmares, and the fact that he's befriended, the father of somebody who he has actually killed.
Yeah.
So he has so much guilt.
Let's talk about that for a minute. So as we find out, through a very interesting sequence, Bucky has befriended the father of someone that he killed, and he befriends Yori, and they seem like they get along very well. They have a very almost kind of like a sort of pseudo father-son relationship.
Yeah,
Bucky actually feels comfortable talking to Yori, but.
Even though Yori doesn't want to talk to him sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah, but they still get along, is my point.
Yeah.
And apparently Yori feels comfortable enough with Bucky that he feels comfortable setting him up on a date.
Yeah, no, because I love the fact that he was like, "Oh, we're going to go to this restaurant this week." It's like, yes, but no talking.
Right. That's probably their thing. But tragically, we find out that Yori's son was killed by Bucky, and apparently this is one of the things in his ledger, in his notebook, that he tries to cross out that name, but he can't.
Mm-hmm.
Yori's name, because Yori's name is in that.
Yes.
So it's almost like he feels like he hasn't atoned for that yet.
No, very much so, and you wonder
what did you make of that revelation?
Well, obviously it's huge, and it begs the question of, is Bucky ever going to openly tell Yori, I'm the guy who murdered your son? And maybe, I guess because we don't even know what Yuri's son was up to, because from the nightmare that the Bucky has, it seems like he was an innocent bystander who just happened to be a witness.
Yeah.
And I suppose, at the time working for Hydra and probably not, and being, of course, brainwashed, I'm sure that his instructions were, there will be no witnesses to what you have done. So the way the nightmare plays out is his son was a witness, if you will, just an innocent bystander who saw the Winter Soldier doing his thing, and so he had to kill him because there weren't supposed to be any witnesses to this crime. It's going to be... I'm curious to see how they address it. I'm sure they won't. Obviously, we won't come to the end of this series without them having the talk,
yes.
if you will, of Bucky sitting Yuri down saying, I kind of killed your son. We still cool? We still on for sushi next week?
Right. Something tells me no. I think I get the feeling that's going to end rather tragically.
Yeah, and it's going to be, and that's why I want to see how that plays out, because the fact of Yuri even playing matchmaker for Bucky was kind of cute. I thought it was kind of fun because you can tell that Bucky's been eyeing this girl for some time.
Right.
Because he keeps making eyes at her, and Yuri, of course, being no fool, can tell. He's like, yeah, I can tell you're checking her out. Why don't you just ask her out at this point? And so he boldly does that, and and off they go on a date.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. Like, of all the people he hooks Bucky up with, it's an Asian girl with a nice Jewish name of Leah.
Yes. I wonder. Maybe she, as I said, maybe the dad's Jewish and the mom was Japanese, or vice versa.
Maybe, I don't know.
Nice combination.
I don't know how that worked, but I thought it was interesting. I'm not judging. I thought it was actually pretty interesting.
And now I have to set up a game of drunk battleships. I did not know you could actually play it that way.
Oh yeah, yes you can, and. Yeah, I really enjoyed their scenes together because it seemed like they were getting along rather well. They're, like you said, they're playing the battleship game. They're enjoying each other's company. There's a nice little flirtation going on, very subtle. And then all of a sudden, Bucky gets up and leaves.
She brings up Yuri, of course, which is obviously an open wound for him, and it's still a taboo subject.
Yeah, we find out like Yuri has this shrine to his dead son. Which just twists the knife a little bit harder in his side.
Yeah, because he goes to check in. He goes to Yuri's apartment and knocks on his door, and he sees this shrine with the burning incense and everything else. And as you said,
I almost wonder if Bucky shouldn't tell him, because all it's going to do is bring him pain.
No, I mean he's going to have to. I mean, I think it would really be odd if they didn't address it anymore, and if they didn't, as I said, have the talk.
Right.
They're going to have it eventually. And yes, I think Leia will actually play an interesting role, I think, as things progress. Yeah. I don't think she's a throwaway character. It's tough to say because I know there will be other players coming into this show, and it's only 6 episodes. But I think she might have something going on. And I would really be happy if these two hooked up, because she seems like a fun girl. She really does. Seems like somebody fun to hang around with.
Hopefully nothing tragic will happen because it's Bucky, and he's all about the tragedy, remember? So
yes, please don't let kind of Helmet Zemo show up and boom, blow her brains out or something. I would be very upset.
Yeah, we don't need Baron Zemo showing up and ruining everything. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right. Anything else about these characters?
Yuri is a character I just love so much. He's just so lovable, and even when the one chap Unique, which is Monique with a U,
right,
was kind of fun. He's putting his trash in Yuri's garbage dispenser or whatever.
Yeah, that was good. They were kind of
your trash goes here.
Yeah, and then Bucky shows up and breaks it up. Yeah, that was pretty good.
It's like, your trash goes here. I'm Unique with it's like Monique with a U.
Yes.
And Bucky's like, whatever. You're kind of get out of here.
Right. That's hilarious. All right, fourth and final topic. Let's talk the Flag Smashers, who we briefly get introduced to. And let's talk that new Captain America that just shows up right at the very end during a rather impromptu press conference.
Yes.
So, Nick, we have as we find out, because we find out earlier in the episode that Joaquin has been kind of keeping tabs on this group, the Flag Smashers, and we're told that they believe that they want to make a world without borders. Mm-hmm. And later in the episode, we get to finally see them in action, where they kind of stage what kind of resembles this V for Vendetta moment, where everybody puts on masks, and there's a robbery, a bank robbery. And there's all this.
Like
there's all this
gone wrong,
right? And there's all this chaos. And Joaquin infiltrates the group, puts on a mask, and ends up having to fight some of the other members later. But we get to see that the leader of the Flag Smashers, who is as we find out from the credits, is essentially Carly Morgenthau. The female version of Flag Smasher from the comics, who was apparently very super strong. And so what did you make of all that? First and foremost.
You make a great point of it almost being like a V for Vendetta, almost an anarchist movement. And if memory serves, the original Flag Smasher came out during the era where there was the Red Scare, and there was the whole thing of the fear of communism in the U.S. Because I remember when I was actually reading it, because
that was these came out in the 80s, so the comics did.
Yeah, because I remember doing the whole thing of starting with Captain America in post Second World War and moving my way up.
Right.
And it would stand to reason that a character like Flag Smasher would come out during the Red Scare because they believe in everybody's equal, there are no borders, and so it almost seemed like, kind of demonizing the concept of this is very much a communist-like villain, if you will.
Right.
Where this, nations don't exist. I enjoyed the concept. They made it into a movement and not just one person.
Right.
And I guess it kind of almost might be a little bit relevant politically today, where you have folks that believe that the world should have no borders and there shouldn't be any more nations, taken to the extreme. And because Joaquin was pointing out the fact that these were the folks that were happy with the way what happened with the blip, which had basically destroyed all borders and everybody was, if you will, equal. It had leveled the playing field.
Right. But now, obviously, with everybody returning, those borders are going back up. And there's still this group, this section of humanity that feels, well, maybe we were better off during the blip.
Yeah, and so it was a nice introduction. It has created these political movements. Yeah. It shows you how much the writers at large looked into the concept of a world-changing event happens, it's going to spawn political movements or, these kind of people rallying for that reason and possibly even violently, as the case may be. The fact that they made Flag Smasher a meta-human, for lack of a better term, is definitely going to be will be a nice one. Seeing when he has to be, of course, she has to be confronted by Falcon and eventually Winter Soldier, because it's a step up to the villains they used to, because neither of them. Well, Winter Soldier is kind of enhanced, if you will, but he's not.
He has a bionic arm, but he's not super strong apart from his arm.
He's not Cap by any extent of the imagination. So it will make for a nice villain, and it will probably be one of many, because if apparently Baron Zemo is going to be coming into play, either they're related, so either Baron Zemo is pulling the strings of these people, because we know he likes to create the division and likes to break people up, at least in the MCU. So on the Nick murder board, is Baron Zemo behind the Flag Smashers? It would not surprise me. I mean, look, I know we promised we'd play this conservatively, right. But there's my hot take. I have a feeling that Baron Zemo is like the capo di tutti I capi, as they say in Italian. Well, interestingly, I think that's a pretty valid theory, and I'll tell you why. Because in the comics, remember when I was talking Ultimatum, that really ridiculous acronym earlier in the episode? Well, that group was actually funded by the Red Skull in the comics. Exactly. So maybe they could be doing it. Maybe they could be doing a version of that, only this time with Baron Zemo funding the Flag Smasher group. Which wouldn't be too far away because, Baron Zemo had been, had sympathized with the Red Skull and they'd actually been, kind of part of the same, they've
Yeah.
both been part of Hydra. So it stands to reason. I think they're going to
And
play
he
it
could
that
be
way.
the big puppet master behind the scenes.
Yeah, because he loves to create disorder, as we'd
Right.
seen in Civil War, in
Right.
Captain America Civil War. So it'd be following his modus operandi, if you will.
Well, I think you're definitely onto something there, and already we're staking our claims with theories. So, all right,
Yes.
we try to get out, but they keep pulling us back in.
Yes. Yeah, there goes playing it conservatively, at least
Yeah.
on my end.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. And as Nick dusts off his murder board, and once again for a new round of theories, connecting the dots.
Yes,
All right.
indeed.
All right. So let's talk
What
about
are your thoughts, Charles?
Well, I thought it was very interesting. I liked the way the group was depicted. It's interesting because these concepts, which were introduced by Mark Gruenwald, the writer of Captain America back in the 1980s, it's interesting how easily updated they are for the 2020s.
How sadly applicable they still
Yeah,
are.
I mean, in a very sad way, yes, it is. But it's also interesting because it's the cycle that these kind of themes are relevant again. With just
History repeating.
with just a fresh coat of paint.
Yeah.
And these are topical issues, and that and it's interesting that I like the fact that the show is addressing this. So the show is very relevant today because not just with this, but also with Sam and the bank. So we're getting a lot of very topical issues in just this first episode without it being like, constant social commentary, beating you over the head. These are just, current themes, modern themes to make the show relevant to today.
Amen.
And, I'm looking forward to seeing Erin Kellyman really step up, in later episodes. I thought she did a great job as Enfys Nest in Solo, a Star Wars story, where she was also kind of like this masked figure who a lot of people thought was a guy at first until she's revealed as a girl. So it would be interesting to see her in something a little similar here.
I was kind of sad we didn't get Emily Van Camp, who I absolutely adore. But, we have 5 episodes for her to make her appearance. But that's my only little gripe.
Just wait for you. We can't have everything at once. We still got to introduce.
I know.
We still got to introduce Baron Zemo back. So reintroduce, I should say. So just be patient. We can't do it all in the first episode. Got to leave some stuff in the later episodes.
True. Yeah, but you know me. I mean, I was just, because I was just so psyched when I heard that Emily Van Camp was going to be reprising her role because as I said, I was one of those who was kind of like waving the flag saying, she was so underused, bring her back. Yeah. Kind of like the Snyder fans. I sound like that right now. That's terrible.
Right. Not that bad. Not that bad.
But no, I was just psyched by that.
We got Batroc Zeliper, we got Rhodey, we got the introduction of Joaquin.
We got a lot of great
stuff. We got a lot of stuff here. The Flag Smashers, and the new Captain America. So let's talk about him.
Yes, indeed. Nice segue.
Thank you. I like the way I segued that. All right. So at the very end, we get this, Sam is, he's reeling, I think, from the problems with the bank. And he's trying to fix the boat. That's not working either. And then suddenly he gets a call from Joaquin, who talks about like what happened in Switzerland. Say, hey, there's all this craziness going on. And then all of a sudden, this news comes out. This press conference comes on the television.
Yeah, because I believe his sister says, turn on the TV. There's like a major announcement.
Right, exactly. So Sam goes to check that out. And it looks like, that one of those very same senator guys that was at the ceremony, the dedication ceremony earlier, apparently got a hold of that shield and has now given it to a new Captain America, John Walker, who were just very teased a little bit at the very end, who comes out, steps out, and, gives a little wink, and we'll see what happens now. I'm sure that's not going to sit very well with Sam.
The camera played well with both his expressions and the way he was almost holding his hands. It almost seemed like he was clenching them together and stuff. It was like he feels like, dang it, I could have, but I didn't.
Right.
And he probably feels really sort of that he's feeling very much kind of regretful about having not taken up the mantle when he could have. He was like, that's out the window now. Somebody else has taken it.
Well, I think this is going to be another one of the things to give Sam a good kick in the pants to get him to realize that he wants that mantle.
Yeah.
But what did you make of that sequence, that revelation?
Okay, I don't want to read too much into this. I don't want to sound too pretentious when I say this, but isn't it odd that the fact that like you said, the same chap who was at the press conference congratulated Sam on his decision, and then gives it to another chap who happens to be white, and sort of walks out going, here's your new Captain America. Look, I don't want to, as I said, read too much into it because it's probably also colored by what's been going on recently in our shared history, Charles.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder whether maybe they would not have been comfortable with a black Captain America. As I said, this is my reading. It might not necessarily be what the show is trying to do. But that's the way I felt when you see the same guy kind of beaming, saying you're new Captain America, and almost happy that Sam decided not to take the gig or to say, I'm not going to do it.
Right. Well, can I tell you something a little bit more obscure trivia from the Captain America comics?
Go ahead.
So in the comics, that actual conversation comes up.
Mm-hmm.
That apparently they were concerned.
It seemed familiar.
They were concerned that back in the 80s comics, that these characters, that commission I was talking about, were concerned that America, quote unquote, wasn't ready for Captain America to be a black man. So therefore, they went with John Walker, white guy, who's just as blonde, just as blue-eyed as Steve Rogers.
Yeah, he's your American apple pie guy.
And I think that's exactly what's happened here. So we're going to see Sam, a black man, is realizing that, well, because I didn't step up, now they've put another white guy in this role.
Yeah, that's my thought. And so I guess it reflects what was going on in the talks that were going on in the bullpen as well when it came to the comics.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we know that the character of Mr. Walker tends to, he does shift his alliances, but the way he looks and stuff, you're like, he's probably not going to be, the Captain America that you're expecting.
No, well, like I said, in the comics, he started off as a supervillain.
That's right, yeah. He
gets recruited to be Cap's replacement when Cap quits.
Yeah.
As Cap, then when Cap comes back, he takes on a different identity.
Yes, which shall remain nameless for the time being.
We'll just leave it there. I don't want to get too far ahead. But that's probably what will happen, I'm guessing, by the end of the series.
And did you notice that the camera kind of teased, obviously, the face of this chap, just like they did with Quicksilver in WandaVision, where you just see the back of the guy first, and then you turn around, you see this guy who's evidently not Chris Evans, and it's definitely not somebody else.
Yeah.
But yeah, I now it really has me kind of on tenterhooks, waiting for next Friday to roll around to see what happens in episode 2. Yeah,
so it's kind of surprising that, well, maybe maybe it's Ralph Boner from WandaVision, right?
Yeah, or usually the Boners have numerous brothers and sisters. This is another one.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm expecting now Agatha Harkness. It was Agatha all along.
All along. Yeah. I'm sure you're going to see those memes a lot, right?
I would not be surprised.
Yeah, well, that's me surprised either. All right. But yeah, so that's our first episode. Anything else you want to talk about?
I just really loved it so much. And I believe we didn't point this out, Charles, but from what I've read, unlike WandaVision, this show, the episodes are going to be slightly longer, which is nice.
Well, this one was 49 minutes with credits.
Yeah. And apparently they're going to be keeping roughly that runtime. And it would stand to reason because we only have 6 of these.
Right.
So it looks like we're going to be going roughly around short of an hour per episode.
Yeah, pretty much a roughly normal time, like a standard network TV show.
And interestingly, no post-credits.
Without commercials,
Yeah,
obviously.
curiously, no post-credits. We did have a few teasers from the credits of what is going to happen, if you will, because we got obviously the image of Baron Zemo. We got a couple of other little kind of press cuts and what have you, which I thought was nice. And it will be interesting to see if, as of the second episode, we'll start getting post-credits, if any at all.
So were you someone who was like watching the credits over and over, trying to analyze and look for every little hint and clue in the credits, perhaps?
Maybe.
Maybe.
I was like, let's watch this for the 20th time and see what I missed.
Busted.
Oh, man, yes. Boy, is my face red, yes.
Yeah. Do I know you, Nick, or do I know you?
Yes, you know me. At this point, I think a certain amount of episodes we've done together, Charles, you've been able to profile me and know what my MO is.
That's all right. I hope so. But I try to pay attention. But yes, I kind of figured that out.
Were you like kind of doing your kind of where's Wally or where's Waldo kind of thing?
No. If anything, I do that I save that for, like looking up things on IMDb or what have you for little hints of what's coming up.
Were you hoping in a post-credit scene or were you happy?
No, not for the first episode. I don't think, because remember, WandaVision didn't get them until, what was it, episode 9 or 8 or 9?
Yeah, well, towards the end anyway. We were like halfway through. Yes.
Right. So it was very late in the season. So probably we won't get them until maybe episode 5 or 6.
And one other thing I wanted to add, it was so cool to get the Winter Soldier theme again. Yeah. That theme is badass. It really is.
You mean that?
Yeah, that kind of almost, electronic scream I've always equated it to. I miss that.
I can't really do it justice, but yeah, that it's very disturbing, and it's perfect for the Winter Soldier.
It's kind of like the high-pitched strings that the Joker gets in The Dark Knight. That kind of theme gets like so dissonant, if you will.
Right.
But it works so well.
You hear those notes, and you're instantly thinking of the Winter Soldier because it's so identified with the character.
Yeah, which is something.
Kudos to the score for doing that. I don't know who the composer was, but
very much so. Well, I mean, it's just like our beloved Hans Zimmer with the Wonder Woman theme, where as soon as that starts playing, that electric cello starts going. That's one of the best modern themes for a superhero, of late.
I think so. All right. If there's nothing else about this episode, what's your ratings? Or no, let's talk about our favorite quotes. You got any favorite quotes?
I did have a couple because it was actually the show was really well. So the one that I really liked, one of them was when it came to Leia, actually, when she said, how you call a guy whose wife died a widower, or if your parents die, you're an orphan. There's no word for someone whose kids die because it's like the worst thing that can happen. I was like, ouch, that's going to hurt. And then another one that I liked was Sam's speech. Well, at least I'm not going to go through the whole speech because it's going to take forever. But what I did like was the fact
good, though.
The fact the phrase, Steve represented the best in all of us, courageous, righteous, hopeful, and he mastered posing stoically. And I'm just going to leave it at that. But
that's a good one.
The fact that he said he represented the best in all of us, I thought was beautiful.
Big laughs with the stoically.
Yes.
Yeah, that was good. Let's see. I liked Torres talking with Sam. You see these guys? This is Torres talking. These are the guys you got to worry about. I've been stumbling on their manifestos on message boards. They call themselves the Flag Smashers. And Sam is like, is that a new thing? Bad guys giving themselves bad names? And Torres says, there's a lot of worse names for that one, but basically they think that the world was better during the blip. Trust me, it wasn't. And Sam replies, trust me. Every time something gets better for one group, it gets worse for another.
Why does that sound eerily close to home?
Right. And Rhodey talking World's a crazy place right now. People are, well, nobody's stable. Allies are enemies. Alliances are all torn apart. The world's broken. Everybody's just looking for somebody to fix it.
Nice.
Yeah, and lastly, Dr. Raynor with Bucky, where Raynor says, look, I know you've been through a lot, but you've got your mind back. You're being pardoned. I mean, these are good things. You're free. And Bucky replies, to do what?
Ouch, yes.
Right?
That's a mic drop moment.
Pretty much, right? That's why they cut the scene at that part, if you noticed.
Yes.
It was good. All right, so what's your rating for this first episode? I can't hear you, Nick. You're muted.
Oh, sorry. I'm going to give this, pardon me, I'm going to give this 9 out of 10 flag smasher masks.
There you go. Those are a little nod to Jesse, I guess.
Yes. I had to, right?
There you go. But I'm going to give this one, I'm just a little under you. I give this one 8.5 out of 10 Red Ledger notebooks.
Oh.
So, it's the first episode. I'm going to give it a chance to build up, and we'll see where we go. But I thought it was a very strong introduction. So
definitely a great start.
Very satisfied with it. Fandom Zone news, I just have really quickly.
Okay.
The CW revealed the cast for the pilot episode of the DC Comics drama Naomi.
Oh, yes, which you have actually mentioned. I'll probably check it out, I reckon.
Yeah, I would actually like that. It was based on a 6-issue miniseries by Brian Michael Bendis. And, the artist's name escapes me. I apologize for that, but it's really good. And I really liked it. I thought it was a very good introduction to this new superhero in the DC universe. And an actress named Casey Walfall, who was in the TV series Army Wives, which I'm not familiar with, stars as Naomi McDuffie. And the series is about a teen girl's journey from her small northwestern town to the heights of the multiverse. And when a supernatural event shakes her hometown to the core, Naomi sets out to uncover its origins, and what she discovers will challenge everything we believe about our heroes.
Boom. Nice premise.
Boom. Yep. So they also, in the cast is going to be Alexander Wraith, who is in Orange is the New Black as the character D. Cranston Johnson, who is in Euphoria, the HBO series, as Zombato, who is a bad guy. He's got bad in the name, right?
Of course.
And a newcomer, Camilla Moreno, plays a new character named Lourdes. Okay. That's who they announced. So it's only in the pilot stage, but we'll see if it gets picked up by the CW. Nice. And Fandom Zone fan mail, we do have a lot of that. So I'll start off with the first person writing in, Holly Mack, returning to the Fandom Zone. Yay, Holly. Which, of course, she starts off, do not read in all caps until you see episode 1 of The Falcon and Winter Soldier. So she goes, hey, Charles, Jesse, and Nick. Well, Jesse's not here, sadly, but thank you anyway. Hi, Holly.
Hi, Holly.
All I can say is, wow. These semi-close to an hour episode formats really seem to be working for Marvel.
Yeah.
The opening with Sam going on a mission, and she has Carlos, but I think she means Joaquin, asking him if he was going to do something subtle. I'm not sure who she's talking about.
Because when Falcon is about to jump out of the plane, he's told by the chap in the plane, keep it subtle. Oh, that's Carlos.
Okay. That's Carlos. Okay, all right. I stand corrected. Asking him to do something subtle. This man was a former Avenger. For the majority of the Avengers, subtle isn't in or high up on their vocabulary list. Or to paraphrase a certain Spaniard from a certain fairy tale movie, you keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. So, nice to see Red Wing being used. That opening fight scene, man, so good. And then the music score was so good. Poor Bucky, trying to make amends and then having a not-so-cooperative doctor that he sees. Love the interaction that Bucky had with Yori. The side story with Sam and his sister was really interesting and did bring up some good questions about during the snap or blip, as they're calling it. No money was made, and superheroes don't have a salary.
Mm.
Nice to see Rhodey again, and him trying to talk Sam out of turning Cap Shield into whatever place he was taking it. The side story with the Red Hand group kept my interest. That's the Flag Smashers.
Mm-hmm.
And something tells me that they're going to play a decent part in this story as it goes along. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I have a feeling that the guy they have to fill the new Captain America shoes is going to be a Hydra double agent?
Mm.
I'm hoping I'm wrong, but then again, really can't wait for Bucky and Sam to meet up again and start getting down to the bottom of things. Is it next Friday yet? Question mark, question mark, question mark. I'll wrap it up here. Holly from Wisconsin.
Thank you, Holly, and right with you.
Yep. Yeah, we're counting the days ourselves because we're recording this on a Sunday, so we've got 5 days, 5 long days, waiting for episode 2.
Going to have to fill this up. And so on to our second email here from our buddy Ray, who'd actually sent us a voice email, I believe, the previous time we talked, I believe, 2 episodes ago when we'd done the finale for WandaVision. So Ray writes in going, "Hey guys, here are my thoughts for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Spoilers. I see everybody's respecting the whole spoilers deal. Appreciate that. Wow, what a way to return to the Cap aspect of the MCU. Can easily see how this was meant to kick off the Disney Plus shows and the start of a new era." Exactly. It hits the ground running. Opening sequence with Falcon, just visceral and mind-blowing. I was very happy to see Batroc again back, and Mackie's comment about plenty of cameos already seems fulfilled. Yes. Hope we see Batroc again. I love that the Flag Smashers are part of this. As comic fans know, the Flag Smashers are akin to Ultimatum, and Flag Smasher's an actual character who leads them. Wondering if the superpowered leader of the Flag Smashers is indeed meant to be Flag Smasher himself, or herself, I guess, in this case.
Or herself, yeah, exactly.
That
shows gender pronouns.
Exactly. We'll have to wait and see. The character development of both Bucky and Sam make the core of this episode, and both are done really well. Sam's familial woes and Bucky's hidden trauma make both of these characters bigger than what they were in the first 4 phases. It breaks my heart that Bucky killed his friend's son, and I'll be watching to see how Bucky will handle this and grow as a person. I guess that's definitely going to be worth watching. I really like Sam in this episode, and his humor is welcome relief at times. The blip again has fallout and is well utilized in Sam's story with his sister. Finally, the reveal already of U.S. Agent. Yes, we
just spoil. Hold on, it's not U.S. Agent yet. Just wait.
Yeah. This surprised me, but I actually like how they're getting straight to it. There probably won't be enough time in the season to delve into John Walker's past, but with any luck, there'll be time down the line. Already looking forward to his inevitable run-in with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. A nifty cameo by Don Cheadle as well leaves me with a solid 4.5 out of 5 Red Wings for this first episode. Thank you very much for that, Ray.
Yeah, thanks, Ray, and appreciate you writing in. Nick was kind enough to retrieve your comments from Facebook, so we could kind of keep them all together here. So that's good. I appreciate you checking out our Facebook page and writing in.
Yes, indeed.
And I hope you continue to do so.
Yes.
And last but certainly not least, we have Dave Proctor writing in. Hi, Dave. And who wrote to us to Next Stop Everywhere, so we had to retrieve his email as well. But
so you had to hop into the TARDIS real quick and retrieve it.
Exactly, yeah. It's all timey-wimey. It's good. It's good. We got here. We just kind of took this big, long travel through space and time, but we got here. So Dave writes in, "Hi, guys." Hi, Dave.
Hey, Dave.
I enjoyed the pod about Superman and Lois. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I was planning on passing because I'm primarily a Marvel man, but after your podcast, I feel compelled to watch it and have watched the first one. Now I'm hooked. Thanks.
Yay!
Yay, we got one. All right. We got us a new Superman and Lois fan.
Yes.
Everybody should watch Superman and Lois. As far as
So,
I'm
Charles,
concerned.
is Greg? Did Greg Berlanti say we get paid by the guy with the people we get in? I think that was the deal, wasn't it?
If not, it should be. Your move, Berlanti. Just saying. If we get paid by the guys we needed to hook, we need to start working on that. All right. Good to know. We do have a, buy me a coffee. I'm sure we could set up for that. I am truly optimistic, Dave continues, about Falcon and Winter Soldier. I really like the extended time to get to know the characters. I definitely think the running time of the episodes helps.
It certainly
does. Because it gives us a little bit more time to flesh out things.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little side there. Really like the extended time to get to know the characters, showing them as people with real-life issues that makes them that much more heroic. Mm-hmm. And let's see, he's like, and Eddie Falco would not have been there otherwise. I'm not sure what he means there. But I'm a giant fan, and I'm sure you guys are going to make the show even more entertaining. Well, we certainly hope so.
Do our best.
Jesse, you will be missed, but I'm sure you fellas can redistribute the load and carry on just fine. Well, we're trying. So
our best.
It's obviously, a very big shoes to fill with Jesse gone. So try our best. Happy spring. Well, happy spring to you, because it's March 21st. So
yes, indeed. Spring has sprung. Yes, indeed.
So happy vernal equinox, everybody.
Yes.
Excelsior, Dave adds. So
nice.
Thank you for that. So I'm sure Stan Lee would approve from Comic Book Heaven. So we all pay homage to the great, the man up in the sky. Thanks, David K. Proctor. So thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Love to hear from you. Glad you and Holly and Ray are on board with us as we talk these next 5 episodes after this.
It's always fantastic hearing from these folks. And Charles, if folks want to write in like these fine people, where can they? How can they contact us?
Well, of course, if you want to be like the cool kids, so if you want to be like Holly, Ray, and Dave, and you do, write to us at fandomzonecast@gmail.com. That's fandomzonecast@gmail.com. You can reach us there. We'd love it to hear from you. Otherwise, you can reach us on Twitter at FandomZoneCast, or like Ray did on the Fandom Zone Podcast on Facebook, or on Instagram at Fandom Zone Podcast. Please check us out there. And Nick, where can they find you and hear all of your dulcet tones?
Well, thank you as always, Charles. You're certainly a gentleman whenever you say that.
You take that back. That's an insult. I'm offended, sir.
Well, when it comes to me, folks, when I'm not here in the Fandom Zone chatting these great shows with Charles and occasionally Jesse as well, I do host a Whiskey and Cigarettes show where we play today's country, traditional country, and everything else in between. For more info about that, you can visit our website, whiskeyandcigarettesshow.com. Podcast-wise, if superhero movies are your speed, I also host Happiness and Darkness, a superhero movie podcast, where we discuss all superhero movies under the sun. If you'd like to join us for one of those discussions, you can email us at happinessanddarknesshow@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the Instagram. And last but certainly not least, the gold standard, the Oscars podcast, where the wonderful Rachel Friend, Zan Sprouse, and I are discussing all the Best Picture winners from 1927's wings to the present day. You can find us on Facebook and the Twitter machine. And if you'd like to join us on the conversation for your favorite Best Picture winner, that's email us at goldstandardoscars@gmail.com. And what about you, Charles?
Well, Nick, you seem especially caffeinated today as you just breezed right through that.
I suppose it's the miracle of Coca-Cola.
All right. Well, that's all right. You take what you can get. I'm right there. I'm right there with you. So as for me, of course, at Charles Skaggs on Twitter, at Charles Skaggs on Instagram, or Facebook, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio, and my blogging things that hopefully I'll bring up here because I've closed the app too soon.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn Good Coffee and Hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on the Fandom Zone podcast. So all kinds of superhero news, talk about, things like, well, hey, Falcon and Winter Soldier, or WandaVision, or Superman Lois. News of my other podcasts they do for Southgate Media Group, including Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, where Nick was on just earlier this week, where we talked a classic Peter Cushing movie, Daleks Invasion Earth 2150 AD with Jesse Jackson. So if you kind of missed our previous Fandom Zone team, you can always check us out on the Next Stop Everywhere. We discussed that movie and had a lot of fun with that. And then coming up next, comic book writer and artist Tom Zoller is going to be returning to Next Stop Everywhere as we discuss The Time of Angels / Flesh and Stone, the first two-parter from the Matt Smith era, featuring the return of the Weeping Angels and River Song. And then Ghost with Twin Peaks podcast they do with Zan Sprouse, where we talk about all things Twin Peaks, David Lynch. And currently we are going to be recording the second of our 3 episodes that are discussing the late lamented ABC TV series On the Air, the first of which was directed by David Lynch. And it features a lot of Twin Peaks actors, which is why we're covering it. So I hope everybody checks that out. And then Drunk Cinema, where sadly, because Zan was a little under the weather, we weren't able to record our next episode, Forbidden Planet, but hopefully we'll be doing that soon. But in the meantime, you can join a lot of our other movies that we've already talked about, and stay tuned because Zan picked Forbidden Planet. Well, I got to turn the tables and come up with a movie that she has not seen. So as soon as we record Forbidden Planet, we'll talk about that. So something that Zan actually has not watched.
Yes.
So we'll find out what that is. I know what it is.
Nice. Well, to have found a chink in Zan
In the
armor. Wow.
Yeah.
Because that is some serious armor that Zan has when it comes to her, watching history, if you will.
I actually came up with a list of 6 movies, and she had only seen one of them.
Wow. Okay.
So I was pretty good. I came up with a pretty good list, apparently. So we'll see. But we did pick a movie, and I'll just leave it there for now. All right, so everybody, thank you so much for joining us for the first part of The Falcon and Winter Soldier. Hope it lived up to the hype, because this looks to be a very promising series. We've already got lots of great cameos, like Ray said, and hopefully we're going to get some more. As we know Sharon Carter's on deck. We know Baron Zemo's on deck, and I'm sure there'll be a nice little surprises along the way.
For sure. It's the MCU, so...
Exactly. And we're going to find out what happens, of course, when Bucky and Sam are finally reunited as they join forces to take out their various threats. And we'll kind of see what happens, especially once they confront that new Captain America, whom I'm guessing neither of them will be particularly fond of.
It's going to be definitely regardless of what happens, it's definitely going to be interesting to watch.
So a very promising start. And we got 5 more episodes to go. I hope you guys are going to come back with us. Nick, any final thoughts before we sign off?
I actually want to mention one final thing, Charles, is we are celebrating 6 years of the Fandom Zone. So what better moment than to get your very own Fandom Zone t-shirt, which I am pining to get.
Well, you mean the Fandom Zone t-shirt that I'm wearing at this very moment?
Yes, because
nobody else out there in Podcast Land can see because, well, hey, it's only a webcam, so...
Exactly.
Only you can see it?
Yeah, so Charles, for folks who want to pick up their very own Fandom Zone t-shirt, like yours truly, where can we go?
Well, at the moment, you can go to my blog, Geeky Things, Damn Good Coffee in the Hot, because in every link that I share on that, there's also a link to the t-shirt store that I've set up where you can buy said shirt. But other than that, I will post a link on our Facebook page. So everybody can go to that instead. Make it a little easier for you guys if you don't want to check out my blog.
Well, and also I think it's...
I hope you check out my blog, but if you don't want to, I'm going to make it a little easier for you.
Folks, definitely check out Charles's blog. It's definitely worth the read. But other than that, I thought, Charles, it's a perfect time, to celebrate 6 years with us, with your own T-shirt, because as I said,
exactly.
And I just joined the team, and shame on me because I didn't get the, I don't have the jersey yet, which is terrible. So I need to get my jersey, as they say.
Well, I've got one for Next Stop Everywhere as well. Just saying.
Yes.
If you want to set the fashion trend for 2021, you definitely want to get yourself a Fandom Zone t-shirt. All right. So, guys, thank you so much for listening. And coming back next week for episode 211 as we discuss The Falcon and Winter Soldier, episode 2, whatever that title ends up being, right here on the Fandom Zone podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Ciao.